Esteemed guests and dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I pray you are all in the best of health in this holy month and the best of Iman, and that your Shahr Ramadan is going well, especially amidst the coronavirus pandemic. Welcome to our show, organized by the World Federation, speaking today about Sayeda Khadija alayhi salam, the philanthropist, the perfect wife, and the mother of all believers. More often than not, we speak about the women in our shared Islamic history in relation to the men in our Islamic history. And although it can be a woman's greatest honor to be an exemplary wife, daughter, sister, and these roles surely elevate their status as a woman and in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the women in our shared Islamic history more than deserve to be spoken about as an exemplary woman in their own right. One of these women, in fact the very first woman in our Islamic history, was none other than Sayeda Khadija alayhi salam. She was truly a role model for all of us, men and women alike. She was a breaker of barriers in her time and context in every possible way. She was an independent businesswoman, one of the wealthiest in Arabia, which at the time was of course unheard of. And she beautifully gave all of that up, all of that prestige up, and all of that status up for Islam and the Prophet. Today we have a fantastic lineup of speakers who can enlighten us further on the various aspects of her life, particularly as we are in the month of Shahr Ramadan. We will be speaking about philanthropy and charitable giving because, as we know, Sayeda Khadija alayhi salam was a great philanthropist. So in terms of the speakers that we've got today, we've got Sheikh Afzal Mirali, Dr. Mohsen Jaffer, Brother Safdar Jaffer, Brother Muhammad Ali Gokul, Sister Mehjabeen Dala, and Brother Nuri Sardar. So without any further ado, can I please welcome Sheikh Afzal Mirali, who is an Islamic scholar and researcher, to just give us a little bit of insight into Sayeda Khadija's philanthropic life and just to give us a bit of an overview about her life in general. Okay, I think we've actually lost Sheikh Afzal there for just a minute, so I'm going to move on to Dr. Mohsen Jaffer, who is a geriatric physician, and he's also the founding president of the Miami Khoja Jamaat and a counselor for the North America Federation, NSIMCO. So Dr. Mohsen Jaffer, if I could please I'll ask you to please unmute your mic and introduce just a little bit about the importance of giving and donating, both from an Islamic point of view, but also in terms of the medical point of view, which is obviously your expertise.
Assalamu alaikum. We'll begin by invoking the name of that loving Creator who is so merciful and so kind. We also give thanks for all the bounties of life He has given us. And I want to also thank World Federation and the media team for organizing this tribute to a lady who is one of the greatest personalities in history. And she is a great role model for women to be a wife, a partner, an entrepreneur, and philanthropist while still running a household and have children. It's a great example, and that is 1500 years ago in the times of Jahiliyyah, which is the ignorant period of life. And you know how life was in Middle East. But this is a good, enduring example for our women. And wisdom comes from our life experiences. So I must confess what I'm going to say is my experiences. I'm not an authority. I'm a professional. I'm a physician. And I've taken care of seniors all my life. But my wife was a great admirer, is a great admirer of Bibi Khadija. And she's an entrepreneur and had her own businesses. Finally, when I got her into my business, just like most professionals, we are focused on the delivery of our professional care. We do not look at the enterprise side of our profession. It is my wife who really helped me with my office business to become a medical enterprise. And alhamdulillah, with that came success. But with success comes responsibility. And responsibility for the financial wealth you have, there is a great responsibility. And it's an amana. But who says that? If you look at the great books before the Quran, all say so. But finally, the Quran is replete with ideas of charity and prayer, salat and zakat. And it dozens of times. And Allah takes no debt, and He tells you how for every penny given, He multiplies it 70 times or more. And the greatest example is the hadith of our Prophet, which all of you know, but I We must remember that. A very rich date merchant dies and has no heirs. And the Prophet opens the big warehouse full of dates. And he says, I'm going to distribute all the dates to all the poor of Medina. But he says, there is such an irony here that if this man in his lifetime had given this one date, it would be equal to the entire warehouse of dates. So I want this to be a very important guiding principle for all our wealthy. And unfortunately, with wealth comes stinginess. A lot of us, as soon as we start becoming rich, the richer we become, the harder it becomes to part wealth. If you tell a poor man to give you $1, even though he's got $2 in his pocket, will give you $1, that's 50% of his wealth. And if you tell a rich person who's a millionaire, he says, give me $50,000, he'll say, no, I don't have cash flow, or the market is bad. And that's just 5% of his wealth. So I implore all our brothers and sisters who have been blessed to let go, because Allah is the greatest giver. My father, Marhum Hussein Abdullah Jafar, was very adamant on this. He said, you must make Allah your partner. Now, khums and zakat is wajib. That is your duty to impart these funds, because whatever is given to you, you are a trustee for it. It's not all yours. There is a share for the unfortunate. But if you make above and beyond that Allah your partner, let's say 5, 10%, or even more, you will never look back. I testify to that. And all my friends, or whoever I know has done that, has never looked back. This is the power of charity. And today we are emulating this lady who was the first one to accept the Prophet's divinity and his message, and laid the entire wealth, and even died in abject poverty when they were boycotted by the Quraysh. But yet she never wavered. That type of determination, we're not asking you. We're just asking you to part your wealth. And this gives you tremendous success, spiritually and mentally and medically. You'd say, oh yeah, what is the benefit of all this? I'll tell you, medically, we know today, scientifically, that a man or a woman is happiest when he or she does something for another person without any selfish reason. How powerful is that? You are the happiest. Consider all the pleasure sources. You are happiest when you do an act of charity towards a fellow human being for no selfish reason. Medically, we know that. We know that when you do an act of charity, you secrete endorphins, those happy hormones, which give you great satisfaction. In Urdu, they say, itminan-e-qalb, that contentment, that satisfaction of your heart, it comes from charity. Now, charity is not just what you do by your wealth, by your smile. So I strongly request all of us to become great smilers. Be jolly, just like our Amirul Mu'mineen. He was jolly. He had a great personality. Our Prophet was very, very kind and jolly and never got angry. We get very angry, we get very upset easily. But the greatest panacea for all our stress is when you do something for others. It calms you down. Now, charity is a great empowerer. When you do something for others, it makes you feel very empowered. So a lot of businesses will do this they have a charitable foundation. So I'm requesting all the wealthy today to have a foundation, to start planning on giving out, not to wait until you are dead and your children may or may not carry out your wishes. Start giving out now, and you know Allah doesn't keep a debt. So I want us also in our children to start the feeling of volunteerism. Like we have Ali Hussein, Ali Gokal, who's Hussein. Or even in the mosque, when you were children, Our parents encouraged us to do Sabile Hussein, give water. If you are bigger, you took a bigger niyaz. But to become a volunteer, that volunteering spirit from childhood, even if you give your son and daughter a pocket money, even $10, make sure she gives zakat. Make sure she gives 25 cents out of that $10 as zakat. Start this spirit. If you put this spirit of giving and the spirit that whatever comes to you is not yours alone, that is very enduring. And when they become professionals and successful, it will continue and the community will benefit. I want to strongly encourage all our community to become educated. Education is key. If you are educated, you increase your potential of becoming wealthy and to doing things for others. If you are poor and are destitute, you can't help others much. Charity is also of your body, mind, and soul. Even the young can help with their body. Let's start this volunteering effect. Our mosque should be clean. Even if you're a wealthy person and your son has never cleaned the toilet, make sure once in a while he cleans the toilet in the mosque. It'll make him humble. Make sure our children pick up, become volunteers. That spirit will transform, and when they become successful, they will immediately transform into philanthropic individuals. This is my request to you, that all of you professionals out there, think about enterprising your profession, how to expand it, how to become wealthy. Because if our community is wealthy and is giving, nobody will sleep hungry. I pray, charity is like perfume. You can't give it away without having a lot left on your hands. Those who give know that feeling, know that very enduring and powerful feeling. So I'm requesting all my brothers and sisters, these are bad times now. The market is bad, your funds are tied up, but this is the time to open up your purses, even though it's harder now than ever before. Now's the time when a lot of people are sleeping hungry. They need your funds. World Federation has done a great effort in redeeming the people who are affected by the COVID and the poverty that has befallen them, because a lot of them are day workers. So I'm requesting you, please open up your hearts. Remember, Allah doesn't keep a debt. Even though times are bad, they'll come back. And may Allah bless us all with health and happiness, and may nobody ever suffer as long as we can make a difference. Wassalam.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohsin, for highlighting the importance of volunteerism, the importance of giving, and of course the importance of smiling. As the Prophet said, even smiling is sunnah, even smiling is a charity. I think we have Sheikh Afzal Mirali back on now. So if you could just please just give us an introduction into Sayeda Khadija's philanthropic life, please. And Sheikh Afzal Mirali is, of course, an Islamic scholar and researcher, world-renowned. Sheikh Afzal, if I could please ask you to just unmute your mic and give us the introduction. Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين ثم الصلاة والتم التسليم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I am really honored, first of all, by this initiative by the World Federation to be given this podium to participate with my elders and my brothers and sisters to speak on this really auspicious occasion and this really sad occasion of the shahada, the wafat of Sayeda Khadija salamullahi alayha. Before speaking about, first of all, I do apologize, my connection was just lost, and I'm actually, in the beginning, I'm not comfortable to be speaking the first person. I'm happy that one of my elders spoke before me. It would have been rude. Secondly, with regards to the life of Sayyidah Khadija salamullahi alayha, it's important to know that even though we focus on one main aspect of her life, and of course this is something that applies to us right now in this situation, which is the manifestation and the way she used the wealth that she had accumulated through her philanthropy and her intelligence. Because as I was reading through many of the riwayat that speak about some of the words of Sayeda Khadija salamullah herself, you can conclude that she was a very intelligent woman, and this is not always focused on. Before speaking about her philanthropy, just a little bit about the position of Sayeda Khadija, why she attained that position, and what we can learn from her, especially with regards to how she put all of the resources that she had under the choice and under the control of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, without having any arrogance or without having any grudge in her heart. First of all, Sayeda Khadija salamullahi alayha, she had a grand position before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to start with, even before the Holy Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. So if we refer to our texts, among the narrations that mention Sayeda Khadija is that once Jibreel salamullahi alayhi, he descended unto the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi, and he was telling him that, oh Rasulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends salams to Khadija salamullahi alayha, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala idha ja'a, she was not around. When Jibreel came, the Holy Prophet was there, so the Khadija was not around. So then he delivered this message to the Holy Prophet that when she returns, tell her Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he sends her these salams. If we also continue, we find that when Sayyidah Khadija salamullahi alayha was passed away, when she passed away, of course, the Sayyidah Zahra salamullahi alayha, she was very young. She was extremely young, maybe around 4 or 5 years old. And you can imagine how detrimental the loss of a mother is to a child, and especially in such difficult situations. When they were boycotted, they were in the mountain passes of Abu Talib. So at that, the Holy Prophet, he consoled the Sayyidah Zahra with this, that Jibreel salamullahi alayhi, he has informed me that your mother's house in Jannah is between the house of Maryam bint Imran and Asiya bint Muzahim, the wife of Pharaoh, and it is made of hollow pearl, which does not, and this house, there is no clamor in it, nor is there any tiredness in it. Wala nasab. Yani the tiredness, the difficulties, as Sayyidah Khadija salamullahi alayha, she was prepared to go through, even though she was known before to be the princess or the queen of Arabia. She went through all of this, and in essence, Sayyidah Khadija, she passed away. We can understand that it was in general because of the effects of hunger that was so difficult that she wasn't able to bear. This was a woman who previously she had tens of servants, and she had gold, and she had a lot of wealth. This is Sayyidah Khadija salamullahi alayha. If we were to speak about her position, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, how he held Sayyidah Khadija, how she was to him. It is not that whenever she would be mentioned, the Holy Prophet would speak good of her. And he would say that she was the first person to believe in me, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted me progeny through her, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he gave me wealth, her wealth, when people deprived me of their wealth. Because Islam in general, the spreading of a message that is as strategic as spreading the message of a religion and trying to cause social change, in essence, it is not all based on faith. I mean, there is a material factor to it. Money needs to be paid. I mean, there is this necessity. This is the reality of this dunya. But all of the good work that is being done in terms of the charity work that is done by the World Federation and many other charities, all of this requires all of us to come together collectively to stand by each other. Those who are affluent to come and to assist. And Sayyidah Khadija salamullahi alayha, she was always ready. At that, the Holy Prophet, whenever he would remember Sayyidah Khadija, he would always speak good of her. If we also go to many of our ziyarat, if we go to Sayyid al-Shuhada himself, on the day of Ashura, he mentions that I am the grandson of Khadija al-Kubra. I am the son of Khadija al-Kubra. Even on that time, even in the ziyarat of Sayyid al-Shuhada, many of the ziyarat you have, this is mentioned. And this tells you of the fact that there is something that this woman did that was extremely exceptional. Now, we, of course, as Shias, we lost a lot of our narrations and our texts during our scholastic life from the times of Sheikh al-Mufid and others. The early life of Sayeda Khadija salamullahi alayha is not very well known. Although the later life is known, the light is shed upon that a little bit. One of the things that shows you that factor, the intelligence of Sayeda Khadija, how was she able to reach that maqam to the extent that the Holy Prophet said that only 4 women until that time had reached perfection. One of them was Khadija bint Khuwaylid. Subhanallah, it's if you notice, Asiya bint Muzahim, according to narrations, she was from Banu Israel. Sayyidah Maryam salamullahi alayha, she was from the Qawm, the people of Nabi Isa salamullahi alayhi. She was his mother. Although the Holy Prophet had 2 women who had reached that level from the very beginning, Sayyidah Khadija and Sayyidah Zahra salamullahi alayha. If you want to notice her intelligence, you just have to see after the Holy Prophet he went to Sham with her capital. He was returning now to inform her how the travel went. Sayyidah Khadija, she was sitting at a path on a place on the road at a high spot. She and her womenfolk who could see. They could see the people who are coming and going. So she turns towards her women and she tells them that, "Oh womenfolk, oh my friends, do you see that man coming who seems to have such a grand awe and majesty to him? He himself, you can see his coming, and above him is a cloud that is passing over him and stays with him. And as he stops, it stops. As he continues, it continues. It is providing him shelter from heat and from any cold. And the birds are flying around him and flapping with their wings, and they are also chirping with what seems to be tasbih and zajal and poetry, as if they are happy." As he came a little bit in front, she understood that this was Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is the intelligence of Sayyidah Khadija from the very beginning. This is what led her to accept Islam. That what led her to reach that high maqam, the first was intelligence. Secondly, the fact that she was the first woman to accept Islam. Thirdly, if we want to look at how our Prophet explained to us how a person can reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are many paths. According to some narrations, بِعَدَدِ أَنفَاسِ الْخَلَائِقِ, that is to say, to the number of breaths of all of creations. One of them is what we are in need of right now. Sayyidah Khadija salamullahi alayha, she spent all of her wealth. Islam today is a sadaqah jariyah of Sayyidah Khadija. According to that narration that says that Islam was spread through, and it was defense of Ali salamullahi alayhi, Imam Ali, and it was spread through the wealth of Sayyidah Khadija salamullahi alayha. In other words, there were many slaves during the beginning of Islam in the time of Makkah who were set free through the money of Sayyidah Khadija salamullahi alayha. She herself, she had slave servants. I mean, that was how the situation was. The Holy Prophet would teach them Islam and they were set free. She would tell them, "This is your money, this is not mine. Not only my wealth, even Khadija is under your command." And she would not object to what he would say. And this also, one of the if we would just like to get a few messages on what a woman such as Sayyidah Khadija salamullahi alayha, the lessons that we can learn from her relation with the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that first of all, in many situations, and especially in our especially in the Khoja community and in communities, especially in the West, where alhamdulillah, in general, people are more affluent. Sometimes the situation may happen that the husband it comes from a wealthier family, or sometimes from the wife may come from a wealthier family. And there would be a significant difference between the social positions of the two families. You find that the spouse that comes from the wealthier family, they have a certain arrogance, a kind of a dealing about them that it's as if telling the other that no, that I granted you a favor and accepting you to be my spouse. Okay, you have to continue to remember that I was really, really happy in my family's home. Sayeda Khadija sallallahu alayha, even though before getting married to the Holy Prophet, she was in this position, although after that, and this is some of the etiquettes, if you were, of philanthropy, and a person even reaching that position, there always needs to be humility. And one of the manifestations of humility is that they will also give, they will also think about the weaker people, is that she did not have any kind of arrogance towards the Holy Prophet, even though he came from a poorer family. No, whatever the Holy Prophet would say, she would accept. And one of the ajib narrations is that Sayeda Khadija would not sit if the Holy Prophet would be standing. So once Imam alayhi salam had been away, and the Holy Prophet, he felt that he really wanted to see Imam alayhi salam. And she saw that concernedness, that worriness, that sadness in the heart on the face of the Holy Prophet. So she asked him, why are you like this? Why are you sad, O Prophet? He told her, because I want Ali, aftaqidu aliyan, alayhi salam. So at that, she told him, no problem. And she rode her camel. She, not one of the servants. And you can see now how the situation has come. During those 25 years of marriage, the first 15 years of marriage, after which the ba'ath started, the mab'ath of the Holy Prophet, sending him as a prophet. So when he started, he missed Imam alayhi salam. She rode the camel, and she went after him. And she told Imam alayhi salam that the Holy Prophet misses you. Please do come to him. He went back, and the Holy Prophet stood up and he hugged Imam alayhi salam. So the two continued to hug for such a long time that in the end, Sayeda Khadija, she was tired. She wanted to sit down. She hit her feet so that it's time to sit down. So to that extent, the humility of Sayeda Khadija, salamullahi alayha, the support, let's say one of the, in the families, those who are able to assist, those who are able to help. And this وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and those who remind each other of the truth and remind each other of patience. Right now in our situation, our families, brothers and sisters, husbands and wives, we need to remind each other right now to take this initiative to come and to support and to help people. And this is something that, just like Sayeda Khadija sallallahu alayhi, she understood this from the Holy Prophet, that he needed to help. We also today, I do request the mu'mineen, brothers and sisters, do remind each other. Husbands remind the wives, wives remind the husband, that encourage them. We need to give, and do not be afraid, because subhanallah, this money goes and it comes. Ad-dahru yawman, yawmun laka wa yawmun alayk. Times are of two types. One time is against you, and one is with you. Support. In addition to this, we also need to understand that from the life of Sayeda Khadija in general, not only philanthropy, the Holy Prophet, he lost both of his parents at a really young age, and also his grandfather Abdul Muttalib, salawatullahi alayhim jami'an. Sayeda Khadija, when she took care of the Holy Prophet, when they became married, when they got married, she was like a mother to the Holy Prophet, to the extent that he says, "Ruziqtu hubbaha," that I was granted her love by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because she was so caring for him. Even when he would go to the cave of Hira, especially after he was sent as a prophet, continuously and those who have gone, they see that how high the cave is extremely difficult climb, and she would follow him up, food he would need. This is something that we also learn from the life of Sayeda Khadija salamullahi alayha. In short, I would just like to end with one thing. Right now, if we look at the situation of our brothers and sisters all around the world, especially in countries in Asia and in Africa, especially those two continents, what we have faced in the West, I'm talking from London right now, we have been in lockdown for approximately 5 weeks. And even over here, the effects of poverty and dire need in people is extremely mind-boggling, and it really, really strikes you. It's extremely difficult. And I can only imagine how difficult it must be for people who are in those two continents to be able to fare. Now, if a person is just by himself, that's one thing. But when you have many mouths to feed, that's even more difficult. To go into a lockdown in such a position, in such a time, and for there not to be any sources of income. No sources of income sometimes. I mean, I have some people who have been messaging me from Africa, and it's extremely striking. It just stops you. And I do really urge my dear brothers and sisters, look at the example of Sayeda Khadija salamullahi alayha. Truly at the time of dire need, the message of Islam was the culmination. It was the zenith, the peak of all of 123,999 prophets and their awsiya, the final message. She supported that. She was a Hanafi Muslim before the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before Islam. She understood, she knew about it, the importance of Islam, and she gave. Today we have so many people that if we don't come to their aid, people are going to die of hunger. In addition to that, many people are in need of medical aid as well. And this is something that I do encourage my mu'mineen, my dear brothers and sisters, even the World Federation, to think about, is that inshallah, hopefully we come out of this experience, this really extraordinary experience, we come out of it learning quite a few lessons, that in those countries where there are not adequate medical facilities, we need to do our part. Where a hospital needs to be built, where clinics need to be built to the modern day standards, we need to do our part. But right now, according to the, based on the initiative of the World Federation, I do encourage my dear brothers and sisters, all the mu'mineen, to and all of the other charities in general, but to come together to assist however much possible. This money, subhanallah, within the this past week, and this is something that I've seen by myself. I've had some people that I know. I've had one of our neighbors passing away just the floor above us, and whatever they possessed, whatever they had, they have not taken a single thing with them to the grave. The currency that is used in the akhirah is not dollars and pounds. The currency that is used, you need to go to a bureau de change, you need to convert it into good deeds, into amal salihah. That is what is going to be understood over there. When you go to the cashier, when Munkar and Nakir, then they hold us accountable from the barzakh and onwards. Whatever we possess over here in this world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't own it. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that inni ja'alun fil ardi khalifa, that I'm appointing a khalifa, a caliph on earth, He did not say I'm appointing a king. We are not kings. We do not actually own whatever we do have. It's an amanat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us to spend and to put it in its right place. At that, I do encourage my dear brothers and sisters to give however much possible, even if it's less. But we just referring to, and I end with this sentence, to the khutbah of the Holy Prophet, in which he says that if we are not able to help people and to give them, provide them with a full iftar, what can we do? He says that ittaqullah walau bi shiqqi tamra, that have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and help or provide iftar to a person, even if it may be a small portion of a date, whatever we can. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, during this holy month of Ramadan, He, through His calculations, maybe we can see that one of the first heavenly books to talk about compound interest. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He multiplies whatever we do. During the holy month of Ramadan, whatever we may give, it is multiplied. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our amal and grant us salvation during this extremely difficult time, and hasten the appearance of our Prophet Muhammad ajrallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Afzal, for giving us a small insight into Sayeda Khadija's philanthropic life. And actually that brings us quite nicely on to our next speaker, Brother Sayeda Jafar, who is an executive council member of the World Federation, and also the lead for the economic stream for the COVID-19 appeal. As we know, the World Federation has launched both the COVID-19 appeal as well as Ramadan relief appeal, and Sayeda Jafar will be speaking a little bit about what the World Federation has been doing over the last few months to help with charity around the world. Thank you very much.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa bihi nasta'in. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ahli bayti tahirin. Sister Madiha, respected panelists, viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, I would like to convey my condolences to all the viewers this evening as we commemorate the death anniversary and remember the exemplary life of Janabi Khadija Salamullah alayha. As we heard from the previous speakers, truly an embodiment for all of humanity to emulate. There is no better example than Khadija when it comes to philanthropy. She specialized in helping the most vulnerable in the society, be it in Shoaib Abu Talib or using her wealth to emancipate the slaves, support the widows and children, and support the communities during the early phases of Islam and even later on. With this motto, the World Federation, with the ethos of the Ahlul Bayt and Lady Khadija, have a slogan. The motto is, we exist to serve humanity. And when the World Federation, very much early on, when the epicenter was China and then Iran, and as the wave was moving towards Europe, realized that there is a need to put a task force together to look into the dynamics and the impact of the crisis within our community, the Khoja Shia Ishnashri community, and humanity at large. But the primary focus was to make sure that the community needs are taken care of. So a task force was set up very much early in March as the epicenter was moving towards the west. We had students in Qom who were struggling at that point in time, and the task force put some action points to ensure that the support is provided to students studying in the East. And then what happened is that to come up with the proper economic plan, we need data. And sometimes a crisis is an opportunity. So for the first time, we managed to collect data from every region, from Europe, from Australasia, from Africa, from NASIMCO, North America and Canada, from India and Pakistan. And interestingly, we got statistics that opened our eyes to so many aspects of the challenges that the community faces economically. To start with, we are 170,000 Khojas. We always felt we were 120, but we have been hearing about 120,000 since I was a child. If you take 20, 30 years at a 2% growth rate, you are there. So that was the first part of the data, which was interesting. But what was more revealing is that the level of poverty within the community, even pre-COVID, was manifested in the data. So if I can request a couple of slides. I have 3 slides to talk through, because when you want to plan and ensure that you attract the right donors and the philanthropists, they need to understand what is your plan and how do you want to move forward to support the communities. So if we can have the slide now. Ayatollah Sistani, gave us guidance right at the beginning by saying, you need to help those families that are in a lockdown and they've been affected by the stoppage of work and restrictions of people's movement. So whilst the World Federation was in touch with Najaf to understand the intricacies of if somebody dies, the ghusl needs, the kafan, the tayammum, or whatever, based on the law of the land and what the health experts tell us, the key issue was to ensure that those who are alive are kept alive by providing them the necessary needs, the rations on a day-to-day basis. So if we move on to the next slide, the needs assessment was built using a dynamic economic model, considering the worst case scenario and the best case scenario. So what would happen in the eventuality of something that would be a pandemic for 3 months? What would the community need to the worst case scenario if it goes on for 12 months and beyond, which is what the World Health Organization is telling us today. So if you look at this particular slide that's out there, you will see that we have a scale of the virus spreading from better to the worse. If you look at the top end, and if this pandemic lasts for 2 to 3 months, you move to the right-hand side of the needs assessment, our economic plan projected that approximately 7,000 Khoja Shia Ishnashri families would be impacted if this crisis lasts for 2 to 3 months. So if you're talking of April, sort of end of March or mid of March, April, May, June, effectively by July, India, Pakistan, and Africa, we are talking of families who can barely afford a meal. Talking of families who probably don't have basic medical necessities. 7,000 families, yeah? So this is the best case scenario. And this is if the recovery is quick. If you go to the second scenario on the slide, you will find that there is an effective response. The governments do respond. There is a lockdown. The recovery is modest and it's slower than the best case scenario. So you're talking of between 3 to 6 months. So you go all the way to August and September. If this crisis continues the way it is, and you have limited access to the economic markets, we are talking of 12,000 Khoja Shia Ishnashi families being impacted. I mean, this is a moderate scenario. And this is using community data. This is using our data. And the worst case scenario, assuming that things really go bad and it goes on for 12 months, there's a first wave, there is a second wave, and probably we have a third wave as well, then this will be catastrophic. We are estimating that more than 50% of the Khoja Shia Ishnashi communities will have devastating impact, and talking of approximately 20,000 families. God forbid this does not happen. We pray it does not happen, and this is the month of Ramadan to pray that it doesn't. But we need to be prepared as a community that needs to be out there to manage its risks. This is where we need to ensure that we inform the communities that this is the situation. Let's not take it lightly. Let's prepare for the worst case, but we pray that the best case scenario emerges. So if you move on to the next slide, the model is dynamic because every day things are changing. The spread of the pandemics, whether it's a first wave or the second wave, whether countries have appropriate health facilities, whether the PPE gears are there, whether ventilators are there, whether the government programs of economic stimulus are there or non-existent, whether the public health facilities allow for appropriate testing. In countries like India and Pakistan, testing is very limited. Even in Africa, we see now where Dar es Salaam is heading towards, East Africa is now gradually moving towards the epicenter. The situation is quite dire. So the model is dynamic in the sense that every month as we get data, we are updating it so that we can reassess the needs. So right now, based on the economic and actuarial model, we are projecting that if the crisis ends by June, the community will need $2 million. And this is why the fund is already open, and alhamdulillah, we are already collecting money towards that to keep the communities alive. I'm talking of the bare minimal right now, yeah. And if this continues for another 3 months, going all the way to September, August, we are talking of between 11 to 15 million US dollars required just to manage the minimum lifestyle of the individuals. This is purely ration and medical facilities and support towards PPE gears and so on and so forth. And then as far as if it goes on as to the worst case scenario, we are almost talking about 50 to 80 million US dollars would be required. It will be catastrophic, and we pray it doesn't happen, but we need to be cognizant that this could happen, and we need to be prepared as a community. So what we have done, and this is my last slide, is that all the regions have signed off the program where we are embarking, or we already embarked upon, a $2 million US fund to help our families, the lowest, the most vulnerable ones, to provide them all the support. And the first tranche of money has already gone out. We are expecting robust reporting so that we can understand the situation on the ground. It keeps on changing and evolving, and the model will be updated. So the next tranche is expected to go this month, and then June, July, August, and so on and so forth. So the idea really is to split the 2 million over a period of time to support the communities. Now, bear in mind what is out of scope is the post-impact, the SMEs, the smaller segments of the community, businesses that have been shut need to be reopened. All that is a completely different plan that is required, and work is ongoing on that front. So I'll probably stop here, Madiha, as far as the economic plan is concerned.
So in terms of, just a very quick follow-up question on that, in terms of the community, the appeal has been running for a couple of weeks now, but in terms of the actual community response and donors and philanthropists, what has been the community response so far in terms of being able to reach your target?
Alhamdulillah, I must say that there may be a lockdown, but alhamdulillah, the bank accounts and the purses of this generous community is open. I must say that this is a philanthropic community. I've seen that this community, the best comes out during crisis. We have seen it in Uganda, we saw it in Somalia. We saw it in Yemen, and we are seeing it right now. So alhamdulillah, of the 2 million, we have probably got pledges of 1.2 million. So we are $800,000 short, at least for the first phase. But bear in mind, there could be more challenging phases. Philanthropists have come out, charitable trusts, trusts like Dr. Mohsin Al-Fawzia Foundation, other foundations have come, have provided support. Smaller donors have come, larger donors have come. Whatever you can afford, you give. And alhamdulillah, I mean, you also, Madiha, are part of WF Aid, and you're working to collect the money. But what's very interesting, I just want to end with this, is that it is not easy. There is a lot of nervousness about individual savings. People want to save their money. The middle class is struggling. The middle class is that component of the community that's never going to beg. You know, there is an element of dignity and izzat and nafs. But we as a community need to be cognizant that they'll probably suffer or are already suffering. You know, the previous night, we had this mental health session and how to deal with anxiety. Beautiful session by young doctors of the community. And something struck me at that point in time. Why there is anxiety? People feel that there is economic depression, things are going to go down. But I fully agree with the previous speakers that this is the time actually to give, because it will reduce your anxiety. Dr. Mohsin talked about the medical component. I just want to add what the Quran talks about it. If you look at Surah Tawbah, ayat 103, the verse says, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً وَتُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ. The Prophet is commanded to train people to give charity. He says, give charity, give sadaqah, that will cleanse and purify you. And the Prophet then is told, وَصَلَّ عَلَيْهِمْ. Now pray for those who give charity. The Prophet is being asked to pray for those who are philanthropists. إِنَّ صَلَاتَكَ سَكَنٌ لَهُمْ. For the prayer of the Prophet on the one who gives charity actually is a source of comfort. Sakan is tranquility. So actually anxiety goes down if you help out. And this is where I just want to end on that note to pay my tributes to Sayeda Khadija Salamullah alayha, that she was that one individual, a profound donor, somebody who gave everything and put no condition in return. And this is the beauty of philanthropy. The only condition was, is my Lord with me? Am I doing it solely, surely for the pleasure of Allah? I saw an interesting narration with which I want to end, and that narration touched my heart, is that she did not demand anything from the Prophet. Her wealth she gave to the Prophet to help the destitute, the needy, the underprivileged. But she only asked for one thing. And she told the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, I need only one thing for you, that when I die, I need you to give me coffin. That's what she asked for. And on this night, or this day of 10th of Ramadan, when she passed away and when she died, and the Prophet lamented as the year of sorrow, Jibreel came to the Prophet and he said, Ya Rasulullah, today Allah has given the coffin of Khadija. She gave for me, the coffin has come from the heavens. So if we go with that spirit, I'm very confident that inshallah we will reach our targets and beyond.
Absolutely, thank you so much. So it was great to hear from Sheikh Safdar what World Federation is doing for the community, but of course, we're also, WFA are also running the Ramadan Relief Appeal, which is looking to fundraise for food packs for the month of Shahr Ramadan for at least 163,000 people every day this month, inshallah. So we just wanted to play, and this is for obviously humanity at large, all around the world in over 20 countries. We just wanted to play a short clip about the work that's being done for Ramadan Relief.
Every day, millions of people around the world find themselves living in near unimaginable conditions without a proper source of food and nutrition. During the holy month of Ramadan, WF Aid aims to tackle starvation within some of the most heavily deprived parts of Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. We are working with our partners in 20 countries. £55 or $65 could feed a family of 5 for the month of Shahr Ramadan. The coronavirus has caused things to be different this year and has affected almost every country around the world. Our partners are adjusting in different ways. Volunteers and staff will be wearing gloves, masks and protective clothing. Community iftars have been cancelled, so more people will receive food packs instead. Cleaning and hygiene products will be included in the packs, and our partners will set up small collection points instead of going into affected areas. Last year, WF reached 654,532 people. 47,628 food packs were distributed, and 6,300 people within our own Khoja community were helped.
So of course, just to let everyone know, that £55 or $65, we've actually got an amazingly generous donor who has agreed to match fund every £55, every multiple of 55 that is given between now and the 10th of May, inshallah. So I would really encourage everyone to donate generously, because your donations will be doubled, your impact will be doubled, and of course your rewards will be multiplied. There are hundreds of charities that are doing amazing work around the world, and then here in the UK as well. One of which is Who is Hussein, and we have with us today Brother Muhammad Ali Gokul, who is a volunteer for Who is Hussein. They've been doing great work, all around the world, of course. And we just wanted to know a little bit more about what Who is Hussein is doing and what our role towards the wider society as a whole in this pandemic can be. So if I could just welcome Brother Muhammad Ali, please.
Dear panelists and viewers from around the world, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First, let me extend my condolences to you all on this sad day when we commemorate the life of Bibi Khadija salamullahi alayha. I think she's a very apt individual to remember now and to commemorate now for the reasons the other panelists have discussed as well, in the context of where we are as a world right now. This incredible woman, 1400 years ago, set an example we're still talking about today. Now, let's remember the context of Arabia then. In the age of Jahiliyyah, as I think Dr. Mohsen initially said as well, in the age of Jahiliyyah, the barbarism was such that these men in Arabia would bury their infant daughters because they were worthless to them. And in that time, when this practice was widespread and common, this woman, Bibi Khadija sallallahu alayhi, this noble lady, a woman of nobility and of course immense resource, she said, no, I morally cannot stomach this. And she became known as al-Yatama, the Mother of Orphans. A wife of a man who demanded that their daughter be buried would go to the house of Bibi Khadija and know that they would find sanctuary and hope and solace there. Bibi Khadija she gave half her house to the public so that they could come in. Her house was in such a place that it was like a thorough road or a confluence of 3 roads in and out of Mecca, and they could come to Bibi Khadija and seek support. Now, it's really important to make that comparison now, because Bibi Khadija was a moral paragon, a moral example at a time of great strife and turbulence. And she understood the way the world should be compared to the way it was. I think what we're going through today with coronavirus draws parallels. You see, it is a health crisis and it is an economic crisis, but more so, or just as much, it's a moral crisis. It's a moral crisis because we're seeing individuals, companies, organizations, and yes, governments acting in 2 very different ways. Either they're acting as corporate vultures, self-interested, either they're taking PP from other countries, they're seeking bailouts while paying their shareholders dividends, they're stealing and appropriating wealth for the few at the top, or they're acting in a way that is virtuous, in a way that is moralistic. Now, 1400 years after Bibi Khadija's life, we can talk about her. One writer says every orphan who didn't have anyone to depend on, every father who couldn't get food for his children, every woman who was homeless, everybody who suffered and became shelterless, all of them knew the way to Khadija's house and went there. 1400 years later, we can read those words and we can ascertain which side of the moral compass she was on, which end of the spectrum she fit. In the same way, our children and future generations will ask us, where were we? Where was our community? Where were we individually? Brothers and sisters, in response to this, at Who is Hussein, about 5 weeks ago, we launched a campaign to address and to absolve ourselves of our responsibilities as Muslims, as lovers of Bibi Khadija and Imam Hussein and the Holy Family in this time. For those who don't know, Who is Hussein is an organization established about 80 years ago to share the life and legacy of Abu Abdullah, to organize individuals, carry out positive work in their communities, inspired by Hussein ibn Ali. And the website is whoishussein.org. With the blessings of the Almighty and many donors and many volunteers across 5 continents, the organization has grown to cover around 90 cities around the world. It's been featured on CNN, BuzzFeed, BBC, and so on. We recognize that if Imam Hussein was here, if Bibi Khadija was here, if any member of Ahlul Bayt were here today, they would know they have a responsibility that Rasulullah taught them to be conscious of 40 neighbors. After all, Rasulullah taught us that he who sleeps with a full stomach, when his neighbor, his stomach is empty, he cannot be part of the Ummah. And the Ummah is such an organization or such a body that when one part hurts, the other part feels it. In light of that, the 40 Neighbors campaign is set up so that wherever you are in the world, whichever community you're part of and whatever your need is, you know you can go to your local Who's Hussein team and they will support you. To name just a few examples, if you're in Texas and you have the ability to knit face masks, then our Texas team will knit those masks and send them around America. If you're in Pakistan and you've lost your job, or you're a day worker or a wage worker and you don't have the ability to feed your family, well, the Pakistan team will distribute 10, 20,000 sets of iftar or food provisions to feed you and your family for 10 days to 2 weeks. If you're in Lebanon, if you lost your job, you know that the team in Beirut have set up a fund to support you. If you're in Africa, whether it's Tanzania or Kenya or Zaire or Ivory Coast, they'll hand out hygiene equipment and hand out food and hand out water. If you're in London, where I am today, if you're in London, you know that they will feed the homeless, as they always do. And Birmingham, they'll continue to run their soup kitchen, and they'll get groceries for the needy. There are countless other examples like this. All because that's what Rasulullah taught, what Bibi Khadija taught, what Imam Hussein alayhi salam taught. When Dr. Mohsen was speaking, and he talks about giving freely, I thought of the hadith of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, who taught us that the most incredible act of generosity is to give freely without expectation of anything in return. Give freely with no strings attached. And there's no stipulation. There's no, it must be over £5, it must be over 10 euros, it must be over $100, it must be over 10,000 rupees or 100,000 shillings. There's none of that. It's give freely. To us, it may be $5 or £10, but to the one who receives it, it may be a salvation. It may be that hope that they didn't have. It may be them not going to sleep hungry. And so let me take the opportunity to thank the donors and the volunteers around the world who've organized in this way. Bibi Khadija gave freely from that which she had. It was mentioned that that was everything that we do today is Sawaba Jariyah for her for that reason. Rasulullah said that the religion was built, as has been mentioned, on two things: the wealth of Khadija, the generosity, the bounty of Bibi Khadija, and the courage, the sword of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And he said that no one ultimately was a better match, destined to be a better match for me than Khadija. He would be the one who commemorated and mourned her, even to his other wives after she passed, saying no one was better for me than her. If we truly subscribe to her, and if we truly commemorate her example, and we think to ourselves, we want to be ones who, if we were there, we would be acting in her way, then today, when our communities are in need, whether it's they're hungry, they haven't got medical provisions, it's an old lady who's lonely, it's a young person who's lost their job, it's an old man who's infirm, we have a moralistic Islamic duty to do something, a little, just a little. We don't have to give all our wealth as Bibi Khadija did, but we do our little bit. And inshallah, if we all do our little bit, we know from our teachers that there is more than enough to go around. And the last thing I want to say is just share something very beautiful with you to give you an idea of what's happened as a result of this great clamor of activity around the world. And I must apologize to the teams whose names I haven't taken. There are many of them, there are too many, and they all deserve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings in your dua. An example of something that's happened. In doing all this activity, we track one thing. We track on whoishussein.org. We track the number of non-Muslims who come and ask us for information about Imam Hussein organically. So this is without us prompting. The number of non-Muslims who've come to find out and asked, can I learn about Hussein ibn Ali? Can I learn about Abu Abdullah? Has gone up almost 100% organically since the launch of the 40 Neighbors campaign compared to the previous month. The Ahlul Bayt are so beautiful that they are like a flame to a moth. And as soon as you hear about them, you can't help but be attracted to them. Inshallah, I know time is short, I end by asking all the mu'mineen watching to consider, reflect, discuss with your families, how is it you can support the needy at this time? How is it we can commemorate Bibi Khadija? It's Imam Hassan's Walad coming up as well. He was amongst the most generous as well. How is it we can support our communities as a gift to these luminaries and also obtain some proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Thank you so much for your support. If you'd like to learn more, please go to whoishussein.org/corona or whoishussein.org/get-involved as well. Thank you so much. Jazakallah.
Thank you so much, Brother Muhammad Ali. Who is Hussein is, of course, doing fantastic work. And as you said, we encourage everyone to give freely to all of these charities. As we know, Amir al-Mu'mineen said to give a little, you should not be ashamed of giving little, because to not give anything at all is more shameful. Who is Hussein is one of the charities that we at WF-Aid are also working with, along with so many others in this time, Sufra, Hand on Heart, so many other charities that we're working with, and it's great to see the collaborative effort amidst the pandemic. So next I'd like to welcome Sister Mahjabeen Dala, who is of course a world-renowned speaker, scholar, researcher, and she does focus and is a specialist on this topic. She will be speaking a little bit about Sayeda Khadija's role as a social figure, philanthropist and a mother, but also how did Sayeda Khadija contribute to the establishment of the religion, both financially and spiritually. So if I could just welcome Sister Mahjabeen, please. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, my esteemed panelists. Madiha, it's always nice to see you. May Allah help you in this fantastic work that you're doing here as a team and reward you in multitudes. Thank you so much for having me along this esteemed panel. When I think of Sayeda Khadija, and this is part of my research as well, because my specialization is on women and gender studies. So when I think of her, I think of her as a human being, as a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, before she is the wife of the Prophet, before she's the mother of the woman who in her lineage holds the answer to all the problems of the world. So before all of that, she is a human being, she's a creature of God. And I think her life before the Prophet is so important as to how she then gets this virtue of becoming the wife of the Prophet. So this has always been that question for me, is it the chicken or the egg? What comes first? Do you have to be that kind of a personality that virtues come chasing you? Or do you have to be connected to virtuous personalities so that you may be known as virtuous? So this is a paradigm that women, I think, struggle with, right? So am I a person first, and then I'm somebody's mother and somebody's daughter and somebody's wife, like? And we find the answer so beautifully collected in the life of Sayeda Khadija salamullahi alayha. Before she meets the Prophet, she is a woman through her intellectuality and through her acumen has derived this title of Malikatul Arab from a society that, as my previous panelist said, did not even give a woman the chance to live, to survive. So to be able to derive that title from a group of people who thought so lowly of a woman must have been a fantastic accolade for her. It must have been a great achievement to be called that, even before she becomes the wife of the Prophet. And even before she became the wife of the Prophet, you see that she is an individual with a heightened sense of consciousness and intentionality. And what do I mean by that is that she usually, when we read these books on Sayeda Khadija, we find that she would hold classes in her home. She would invite the scholars of the Ahl al-Kitab who would come and they would talk about the promised Prophet who is going to come. So you see that she's already an intellectual. Even before she lays eyes on the Prophet, she wants to know about him. She wants to learn what the scriptures have said. This is again very beautiful about her before her life with the Prophet begins. And just like Brother Ali Gokul said before me, that she was known as the al-Aitam. So she had this social consciousness as well. So even before she's associated to the Prophet, all these women who thought that their daughters would be buried alive would come and drop them off at her house, and she came to be known as the Aitam, who would take care of them. So all this, I think, contributed to her becoming that individual who could be the perfect companion and partner for the Khatam al-Nabiyyin. And you see when she marries him, and that is also out of intentionality. She actually hires Maysara and says, your job on this mission, stuff that we all know about, and we hear, is that you record and you report what happens in this mission that might be striking about this individual. So there seems to be an intention with what she's doing. Usually when I'm talking to young girls, I'm like, look at how intentionally she wants to get married. Do we have that intention, when we're going into the marriage, or we just go like, whatever, we'll take it when we come there. So those are the beautiful aspects about her before she even becomes his wife. And when she does become his wife, they are beautiful companions to one another. It must be really hard trying to preach, and we know that the Prophet would come back, having stones thrown at him, having abuses world at him, and you come with a broken physiology, and you come with a broken, such of nafsiyat, and then you have this companion who smiles at you and says everything's going to be okay. So it takes a huge person to do that, to be the companion of a person like that. And then he helps her too when she's ousted by the people and she's pregnant, and there's nobody to talk to. He's there as a companion for her. So you see this beautiful companionship between the two. Losing children, they lost so many children together. Their children would not survive, and that meant that they were beautiful partners and companions to one another. So there's so much that is happening in there. But sticking to, I know my time is almost up, sticking to the theme that we are trying to, or you, very noble theme that you're trying to address here, is the philanthropist aspect of Sayeda Khadija. And you see that she is the first woman, absolutely, the first to believe in the Prophet of Allah, the first to pray behind him, the first Musliman, actually. Even if we were to dissolve the gender boundaries, you would see she's the first person who accepts immediately after he comes down from the cave. She's there to accept Islam, right? So I think from a philanthropist aspect, what this woman has done is she has left a legacy which is ingrained in her children, and through her children to the larger community who is just passionately attracted to her children. So you find her being the first supporter of Risala, spiritually, financially. And you find her daughter being the first supporter of Wilaya, financially and morally. She's out there giving a khutbah. She's out there demanding fadak. Demanding fadak for what? Because it supports the Wilaya claim. So you see the legacy that she leaves behind. Her daughter is doing the same thing. She gave up all her wealth for the early Muslims who were struggling, and you find her daughter doing the same thing on her wedding night, giving her dress away. And when her father asked her, why did you give your dress away? She said, when my mom used to give away everything, you would tell her that whatever you give is actually stored with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So she actually stored all her wealth with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the akhirah. It wasn't really gone. It was saved in a better place. And that's exactly what I'm doing. So I think this woman has left that kind of legacy behind with her children and for the larger community. And I think one message that we could take away from the aspect of philanthropy is that as mothers, as women, we have a great impact. We have a profound impact on how we translate securities, especially financial securities in our family. If the woman sort of, loses it and says, oh my God, we're gonna lose our money, or something's gonna happen, it somehow just translates into the insecurity of the entire family. And if the woman stands by and says, no, it's okay, we're giving in the way of God, and God is going to reward us in multitudes, it's totally fine, then the entire paradigm of the family shifts. And I don't have to go very far, and I'll end with this. When you have the daughter of Sayeda Khadija, fasting for 3 days and giving up her bread to the yatim and the miskin and the asir, and we know that the children, the young under 5-year-olds, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein in Islam, were giving up their bread as well. You do not find any riwayah which tells us that Sayyidah Fatima told them, no, sweetheart, you were sick, you were hungry, I'm giving my bread, you don't need to give yours. So you find this encouragement in philanthropy, right? Even from young children. It's okay, you don't find the parents discouraging them. So this is the legacy, I think, that lives on, and that is the Jood and Sakha that we find in the Ahl Bayt, which I would love to say, and I'm sure, so confident that it stems from Sayeda Khadija, salamullah alayha. That is why we pay respects to her, even in Ziyarat Waritha, even when we're doing, you know, our other du'as, we pay respects to her because she's the foundation. A good leader, a good partner, and a good protector. And I think in Sayeda Khadija, the Prophet, and Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, we have a winning combination. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sister Majibin, for your impassioned speech. Such a pleasure always to hear you speak as well and see you as well. So we're just going to move on to the question and answer session. We do have questions for each of the speakers that has come in from the audience. So I think if we move to Sheikh Sadr first, we've got a question from one of the audience members that's asked, is the COVID-19 emergency fund Sadqa or Sadqa Imam Zamana eligible? If you could just enlighten us on that.
Yes, the fund is open and the provisions are going towards the needy. So there is no issue with that in principle.
Okay, great. Short and sweet. Dr. Mohsin, a question from the audience for you is, does giving and generosity reflect on physical health? We know it affects mental health, but are there any physical effects to giving and generosity?
Well, we are a collection of hormones and chemical reactions. So anything that happens in the body affects us. We are not just organs, but we are all connected. Every cell in our body is connected with each other. So the brain doesn't function in isolation from the other organs. So how you think, you become. And our stress level in this life is tremendous. And if you can calm that level down and feel tranquil and feel content and feel comfortable, then it portrays to the whole body. So charity, any charity, smile or financial or a good deed, transforms into this huge outflow of endorphins, which make you feel nice and happy. And if you are happy, your body is happy.
Thank you so much. Sister Majibin, a question from one of the audience members was just surrounding the age of Sayeda Khadija when she got married to the Prophet. The viewer has said that they heard that she was actually young and the aging issue was falsified. So could you shed some light on that, please?
Yeah, sure. And I think I'll follow in the footsteps and be short and sweet. So we have some historical research on that. Of course, what the mainstream knowledge is that she was 40 and he was 25. That's what has been taught to us, you know, from a very young age. But I think Ibn Shahr Ashub in his Manaqib al-Abi Talib, he has sort of put in another ihtimal. He puts in a probability that she was 3 years old at the time of the Amul Fil, when that Fil incident happened, which is the year in which the Prophet was born. So he has posited that she was 28 and he was 25. So there was a difference in age, but might not have been as profound or as large as has been sort of exaggerated by the mainstream. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Another question for Dr. Mohsin that's come in. Someone has asked, why is giving important to you personally? And is there anything that you think that we can give to others if we are not financially capable? You did mention volunteering earlier. Is there anything else you can suggest?
I think a lot of people, when they are given some bounties that is above and beyond other people's level, they feel very blessed. They feel that the Lord has really chosen me to give these bounties more than my surrounding or fellows around me. So it puts you in the state of mind to feel, why me? And is this all mine alone? Or there is a responsibility that goes with it. So alhamdulillah, as I explained to you, we became successful, and very soon, like I told you about my father and how he had put into us that Lord is your partner. But from very childhood, this idea of volunteering that we should put in our children, it fosters that feeling that if you get anything, it's not just yours. There is a share in it, and the Lord's share. And the Lord doesn't want any of our stuff. So how do you satisfy and thank your Lord for the bounties he has given you is by doing things that will make him happy. And how does your Lord become happy? When you serve mankind. And to us, for example, I'm a doctor, and ours is a medical enterprise. So our focus has been to spread medicine. So like we have a free clinic in Miami. America is a very wealthy country, but you'd be surprised, 50 million Americans don't have health care. So we set up the first Muslim free clinic in Miami 10 years ago. And today that philosophy has transformed into free clinics in India, Pakistan, and in Africa. So this is what we do. And then we realize that there are institutions that need money, or some poor people, especially if you can set up a school and train these poor girls to be educated or to have a computer skill. So suddenly you realize there is so much need around you and around the world. And you feel so blessed that you can be a small part of that. But what you get back in return, the feeling good, like I was talking about earlier, is immense, and it's incomparable. So I feel, my wife and me feel very blessed that we have a foundation through which we can do this work. And I implore you all, no matter how small a means you have, start doing this. And other speakers have told you that. I guarantee you, in medicine, we never give guarantees. But this is one guarantee I can give you, one prescription, that by giving, you will get back so much more physically, mentally, and emotionally. God bless you.
Thank you. No, totally agree. I think there's a hadith, and I'm paraphrasing here, that says something along the lines of, if you can't give from your hand, then give from your mouth in terms of speaking out. And if you can't give from your mouth, then give from your heart in terms of saying a prayer, at least for those that are oppressed and marginalized around the world. Sheikh Afzal, I have a question for you, more in terms of, you mentioned the story about Sayeda Khadija going out to find Amir al-Mu'mineen in the streets when the Prophet was missing him. Do you have any other such stories, either you yourself or Sister Mahjabeen, like that, about the Prophet and Sayeda Khadija together? It was a really beautiful story, and I think the viewers would like to hear more such stories of the two of them. I think you're just on mute. If you could just unmute and start again, please. Sorry.
I don't have a problem if the sister would like to respond. I do have a story, but if she would like to go, it doesn't matter.
I don't think I was there when you said that story, so it can be all yours. A learning curve.
There is actually a story that, like I mentioned again, unfortunately, due to the loss of a huge corpus of our text, there's a lot of literature regards to Sayeda Khadija and other figures of Ahlul Bayt that unfortunately was lost. But there is one story that I read, that during the time of Jahiliyyah, there was a tradesman who came to Mecca, and Mecca at that time, it was known to be al-Qura, so it was known to be a trade center. So there was a person who came to Al-Abbas, to the uncle of the Holy Prophet, who himself was a tradesman, and he lodged with him. And in the morning, when the sun was approximately it approached Dhuhr time, he saw that a youth came. He went towards the Kaaba. He went over there, and then he raised his gaze towards to the sky. And then a woman came, and she also joined him. And then a young youth came, and he also joined him. So there were three. After that, he saw that they started to pray, and the one who was in front leading them, he then went into ruku'. So the ones behind them, they followed him, they did the same. And after that, they went to sujood. And the one in front, the Holy Prophet, he went to sujood. He did the same. The Sayeda Khadija, and Amir al-Mu'mineen did the same. This person, it says that he turned towards Al-Abbas, and he told him, Al-Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib, that I haven't seen anything stranger than this. He told him, do you know who this person is? That is Muhammad bin Abdullah, my nephew. The woman behind him is Khadija bin Khuwaylid, and that is Ali bin Abi Talib, the son of my brother, again, my nephew. These three, they follow a religion that nobody else other than them follow. Now, if this was during the time of Jahiliyyah, of course, the Holy Prophet, according to certain texts, he was mulham from the very beginning. So there was a particular way of praying that he was following. Salat during that time, it was not legislated as it is right now. Salat was legislated later on after Isra and Ma'raj on the 5th year after Ba'tha. But just to try to keep it short, they were praying a form of prayer. So this was one way. Yani, I'll say that Khadija salamullahi alayha, she was with the Holy Prophet, believing in him.
Lovely. Thank you. Dr. Mohsen, I think you had a comment on that as well.
I want to say something about Sister Majibin told us about how learned and what a scholar she was even before she married the Prophet. And I want to bring to fore a point where Bibi Khadija proposed to the Prophet. So I would like us as a community to take away the stigma where the girl's side can make a proposal to the boy's side. They don't have to wait for the boy's side to make a proposal. We should follow this sunnah of Bibi Khadija. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Just to end on the question and answer, Brother Muhammad Ali, we've got a question here just asking about how if someone wanted to volunteer for Who is Hussein, how they might be able to do that. And in terms of if you wanted to just touch upon the point of what else you think people can give except for financial aid, if you've got any thoughts on that.
Of course. May Allah bless that questioner. You can welcome all volunteers. A couple of ways to do so. The easiest probably is to go to whoishussein.org/get-involved. On that page, it lists the different ways you can support us. Most specifically, it shows all our teams around the world, and it gives you their contact details, usually a location like I'm in London, london@whoishussein.org. Email them and you can get in touch and volunteer for them, and you can find out their activities. Also on the website, it lists upcoming events. So click on, it'll show a map of the world, click on an event, and you're welcome to go down there and it'll tell you the details about it. You can also go on their Instagram, Facebook, or if they have on a Twitter page, Facebook's usually the best, and get in touch with them that way. Other ways of supporting us, we welcome all support. So if you can't volunteer, we ask you to please consider donating to us. We've talked about this, no matter what the amount is, it goes a long way. So whether you can donate to us with a monthly standing order or a one-off donation, again, whoishussein.org/get-involved. Support us on social media. So Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Use the hashtag 40neighbors. If you've got it, great. If your kids have got it, if your brothers and sisters have got it, use the hashtag 40neighbors to share good news, good work being done, and share it with your non-Muslim friends. Share to them that these are the values we stand for. This is our madhab, and this is how our values inform us to respond during a crisis such as these. And let us all share the name of Abadullah, and together we can show a true alternative path, a path of compassion and dignity, inshallah. But whoishussein.org/get-involved, and our Facebook page has a lot of information on it. I've just seen that there's been some news that we've just been featured by Fox 32, which is a Chicago news broadcast, on some work that the Chicago team have done. So if you go on social media, share news stories like that, which are great and help us build momentum. And your du'as lastly.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now to just introduce the world-renowned poet and spoken word poet, Brother Nuri Sardar, who will enlighten us with some poetry about Sayeda Khadija alayhi salam.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for having me. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. So obviously I start by sending condolences on this occasion of the sad demise of Lady Khadija alayhi salam. I just had a very short poem dedicated to her that speaks about the relationship between her daughter Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, and her granddaughter Bibi Zainab alayhi salam, all of whom form one very special connection. Tell the one who had mothered the broken rib that her grief only ends with the death of Zainab. To Muhammad right now, the weight of revelation seems lighter as death comes for the soul of his Khadija. He buries her and he buries his soul with her. There, peace of Muhammad is buried forever. The embodiment of all of Allah's mercy is left staggering and lifted up by Ali. Her wealth fed Islam's scholars and its soldiers. Her wealth fed Islam scholars and its soldiers. Her wealth, it fed Islam scholars and its soldiers. The pillars of Islam, they rest upon her shoulders. Half of religion owes her for its wonders. Just one half, because the other half is Haidar's. Due to Khadija's wealth and due to Ali's sword, billions profess belief in the one true Lord. In her absence, hearts become old and they wither. Orphans everywhere lament their true mother. Her place in Muhammad's heart is filled by no other, and he awaits his death so that they can again be together. The purest heart that was ever created, with its soulmate it yearns to be reunited. Khadija's grief was not to end with her end, because as she dies, the ribs of Fatima, they start to bend. Khadija's grief was not to end with her end, because as she dies, the ribs of Fatima start to bend. From the grave to her daughter, her hand she would lend, as from that tyrant's slap, the face of Fatima she would defend. When the house of Khadija's daughter would burn, for her mother's embrace, Fatima would yearn. And that fire that was first lit in Medina, it engulfed the heart of Khadija's granddaughter. In death, she refused a shroud to cover her. Why? Because she wanted to honor Zainab's grief over her brother, Hussein. She'd bury her hands deep beneath Mecca's sands to honor the loss of Abbas's hands. The gates of heaven for Khadija they open, and yet for Muhammad, Khadija is heaven. She refuses a throne, even though she is a queen, because she says that throne, it belongs to Hassan and Hussein, the masters of all those who dwell in paradise. The eyes of Khadija await to meet their eyes. So tell the one who had mothered the broken rib that her grief only ends with the death of Zainab, that her grief only ends with the death of Zainab. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you so much, Brother Nouri Sardar, for that beautiful poem about Sayeda Khadija. We've come to the end of our program tonight. Our condolences once again to all of the guests, the audiences, and the Imam of our time on the Shahada of Sayeda Khadija. We pray the rest of your holy month is spiritual and blessed. Please do keep safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.